welcome to the ultimate biological inversion. In the year 2026, you have been conditioned to believe that carbon dioxide is a waste product, a toxic gas, a biological exhaust that your body must purge as quickly as possible. I am Dr. Julian Thorne, and today we are going to perform a radical dissection of the CO2 paradox. The truth is far more dangerous to the global system. Carbon dioxide is not your enemy. It is the master key to your superior intelligence, cellular oxygenation, and nervous system sovereignty. Without the precise, strategic retention of this gas, your brain is effectively suffocating in a sea of oxygen it cannot use. You are living in a state of chronic overbreathing, a shallow, panicked existence that keeps your prefrontal cortex offline and your primal survival instincts in a state of permanent alarm. You have been trained to fear the very gas that grants you cognitive clarity, and in doing so, you have surrendered the remote control of your nervous system. Observe the modern epidemic of anxiety, brain fog, and chronic fatigue that defines the mid-2020s. This is not merely a psychological issue or a result of digital burnout, it is a gas exchange crisis orchestrated by the 2026 environment. When you expel too much CO2 through rapid, shallow chest breathing, the default state of the modern worker, you trigger the Bohr Effect in reverse. You lock oxygen into your hemoglobin with an iron grip, refusing to let it reach your hungry mitochondria. In this state, your brain is literally starving for fuel while you gulp down air like a drowning man in a shallow pool. The global frequency harvest relies on your inability to hold your breath. A human who cannot tolerate CO2 is a human who cannot think deeply, act decisively, or resist external manipulation. We call this the Suffocation protocol, and it is the invisible leash that keeps the masses in a state of low-voltage obedience. It is time to breathe your way out of the cage. To master the CO2 paradox, you must first deconstruct the propaganda of modern respiration. Most people believe that breathing more air equates to more oxygen for the brain. This is a lethal misconception. Your blood is already saturated with oxygen, but that oxygen is an inert prisoner if it cannot be released at the cellular level. Carbon dioxide is the biological key that unlocks the oxygen from your red blood cells. Without sufficient CO2 buildup in the tissues, the oxygen stays trapped in the bloodstream, circling your system but never entering the neurons that need it most. By hyperventilating, as the high-stress 2026 lifestyle demands, you are effectively demagnetizing your own blood. You are running on empty while the tank is full, a tragic irony of the biological machine. The system wants you in this low CO2 state because it induces a mild, perpetual hypoxia that blunts your intellectual edge and turns you into a passive observer of your own life's decay. Consider the architecture of the modern 2026 environment, the pressurized air-conditioned offices, the blue light screens, the high-frequency notifications that trigger microgasps throughout the day. All of these are calculated stressors designed to disrupt your natural, silent breathing rhythms. They force you into mouth breathing, a primal survival mechanism that should only be activated during life-or-death physical combat. When mouth breathing becomes your baseline, you are telling your brain that you are under constant, invisible attack. This drops your CO2 levels to dangerous lows, creates systemic inflammation, and systematically shuts down the neural pathways of higher reasoning and intuition. You become a biological puppet, reacting to every digital stimulus with the panicked grace of a wounded animal. The CO2 paradox teaches us that to gain sovereign power, we must embrace the buildup of the very thing we were told to discard. We must learn the dark art of biological restraint in a world of excessive output. The connection between your breath and your vagus nerve is the most powerful electrical circuit in your biological frame. In the year 2026, this circuit has been systematically hijacked by the frequency harvesters. The vagus nerve is the highway of your parasympathetic nervous system, the internal conductor responsible for deep repair, complex digestion, and high-level intuitive processing. When your CO2 levels are chronically low, the vagus nerve is effectively silenced, and the sympathetic fight-or-flight system takes total, unyielding control of your psyche. You become a battery that is constantly draining its voltage and never finding the quietude to recharge. The CO2 Paradox protocol is a violent electrical reset for this entire hijacked system. By slowing your breath and forcing your body to tolerate higher levels of carbon dioxide, you send a direct, undeniable signal to the vagus nerve: the danger is a simulation. We are in command. Imagine your entire nervous system as a high-fidelity instrument that has been tuned by the world to the frequency of perpetual panic. Every shallow, unconscious breath you take reinforces this jagged tuning. But as you build your CO2 tolerance, you are effectively restringing the instrument for a higher purpose. You are increasing your vagal tone, which translates directly into emotional resilience, physical longevity, and an almost supernatural intellectual stamina. In the year 2026, the new elite are not those with the most data or the most wealth, but those with the most stable nervous systems. Those rare individuals who can sit in the furnace of high-pressure environments and remain physiologically indifferent because they have mastered the gas exchange within their own lungs. The system cannot harvest the energy of a man who is in total control of his internal chemistry. A high CO2 human is a biological fortress, a sovereign entity impenetrable to the psychological static of the digital age. You are no longer the fuel, you are the fire. The alchemy of carbon dioxide is not found in the inhalation, but in the pause, the sacred, terrifying space between the breaths. This is where the real transfiguration of your consciousness occurs. In the 2026 Thorne Protocol, we focus on air hunger exercises designed to expand your biological threshold for discomfort. When you feel that primal urge to breathe, that rising heat in your chest and the panic in your mind, that is not a signal of oxygen lack, it is the healthy buildup of CO2. By leaning into that discomfort, you are literally expanding the capacity of your brain to handle the complexities of reality. You are training your mitochondria to be more efficient, to produce massive amounts of ATP with minimal metabolic waste. This is the secret of the masters throughout history: the less you breathe, the more you live. It is a counterintuitive truth that shatters the modern wellness narrative of take a deep breath. No, you must take a small breath, and you must hold it until the system screams. Only then do you find the silence. This is not merely about physical health, it is about cognitive dominance over the grid. High levels of CO2 act as a natural, potent vasodilator, opening the microscopic blood vessels in your brain and allowing a literal flood of nutrients and oxygen to reach the neurons that govern complex strategy, creativity, and foresight. This is why the greatest insights of humanity often come in moments of deep stillness or during the intense metabolic buildup of CO2. The Suffocation protocol of the 2026 grid is designed to keep your blood vessels constricted, your brain starved, and your mind small and manageable. By mastering the CO2 paradox, you are performing a daily act of biological rebellion against the harvesters. You are forcing your brain into a state of hyperconductivity. You are reclaiming the lost art of deep, singular focus in an era of infinite, fragmented distraction. Your breath is the manual dial that controls the volume of your reality. Turn the volume of the world down, and watch the truth of your own power emerge from the shadows. As we conclude this deep dissection of the CO2 paradox, realize that the battle for your sovereign soul is being fought in the rhythmic expansion and contraction of your diaphragm. Every unconscious breath you take is either an act of submission to the atmospheric grid or a quiet act of reclamation. In the year 2026, the most radical, revolutionary thing you can do is to be absolutely still and breathe less than the world demands. Purge the oxygen lie from your mind once and for all. Embrace the buildup of carbon dioxide not as a waste, but as the sacred, pressurized fuel for your next stage of evolution. You are not a mindless consumer of air, you are an alchemist of gas exchange. Your lungs are the bellows of your internal furnace, and when you control the gas, you control the intensity of the flame. When you control the flame, you sit upon the throne of your own consciousness, untouched by the storm outside. I am Dr. Julian Thorne, and the protocol for your respiratory awakening is now permanently active in your code. From this second forward, monitor the air you take and the gas you hold with militant precision. Build your tolerance for the air hunger, strengthen the electrical output of your vagus nerve, and watch as the frantic world of noise begins to dissolve, replaced by a crystalline clarity that only a high CO2 brain can truly perceive. The age of the panicked, shallow breather is coming to an end. The age of the sovereign breather, the crystalline master of his own internal atmosphere, begins now. Stand tall, close your mouth, and realize that you have had the key to your own liberation hidden in your lungs all along. The harvest cannot touch what it cannot suffocate. Take command of your chemistry, and you will take command of your destiny in 2026 and beyond. The operation is complete. Step into the absolute silence of your power.